Hello friends, welcome to the channel. If you are new here, then my name is Kubeir. I'm a licensed ICCR's immigration consultant, and this channel is all about news, updates about Canadian immigration, processes, things you should do, things you definitely should not. And today's video is about a weekly roundup that the initiative that we have launched just last week, whereby every week, every Saturday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will do a weekly roundup of what has happened within the Canadian immigration industry, any progresses, any updates, any exciting things that are happening. Some of them you may have missed. So by joining us for this weekly roundup, you can refresh your understanding of what's been happening. So let's get started before we waste our time and yours. So quote of the week, and that's what we will look at, and it usually makes a lot of sense with something like this. Don't worry, you are not where you want to be yet. So don't worry if you're not where you want to be yet, because great things do take time, which is quite normal, right? This is our weekly roundup, and we will start with the provincial nominee programs, the scores, the draws that have taken place. And the first one that I have, as in the information I have, is that British Columbia has temporarily paused the entrepreneur immigration stream. This stream basically would allow people who were looking to immigrate to Canada under business immigration. But this particular stream is the basic stream, whereby you will need at least $200,000 as investment to be invested in an eligible business in British Columbia. And you would also need $600,000 as net worth, which could be your assets, your funds in your account, your real estate, your mutual funds, stocks, shares, whatever, legally acquired wealth. Then 383 invitations were issued by British Columbia under their PNP program, which happened on the 20th of July. And these invitations were issued to different streams: skilled worker, international graduate, entry level, and semi-skilled subcategories of skilled immigration and EEBCC stream. And British Columbia continues with actively giving you those invitations. Keep in mind, British Columbia is usually you basically need job offer in most programs in British Columbia. There is only one, which is the international graduate, where you may not need a job offer. But in most other streams in British Columbia, you will need a job offer to be eligible to apply under their nomination program. The next was the Alberta. They also conducted their draw on the 14th of July. We are already past the 1 week mark, but this was announced on their website only on the 20th of July. 181 candidates were invited with the lowest indicated CRS score of 301. As of now, 2,613 candidates have been invited for the provincial nomination, and their quota for this year is 6,250. Something which Alberta basically, they are of interest to so many people out there, because everybody is hoping and waiting to see if they will be able to get something from Alberta. And invariably, they pin their hopes on Alberta. But the thing with Alberta is that Alberta doesn't really announce their criteria for selection. So it's not like that the scores that they've invited is 301. So everybody who was above the score of 301 would get invited. That is not how Alberta operates. They will pick and choose specific profiles from the express entry pool, specifically with the criteria that they are preferring. Most cases, it would be people who have some connections to the province, or if the primary knock code is something which Alberta has an interest in at that point of time. Those will be the profiles that will be picked up. I know in the past, 1241 has been really favored, and 1311 has been a favorite with Alberta. They have also taken 6221, 6311, 1215, 2132, 217, was it 1 or 2? 2171 or 72? I don't remember exactly. These are some of the things that, some of the NOCs that I remember on top of my head that Alberta has invited. It's not that these are the only ones. They also invited some other NOC codes, but it's just that I don't remember on top of my head. Because as I said, they don't really publish the list. They will simply announce as we have it here, and that just would be it. But the good idea is always to have your profile active and valid for at least 5 months, because that is their requirement, that your profile should be valid for at least 5 months. And your primary knock code is something which is what they would be favoring. Similarly, Prince Edward Islands invited a total of 127 immigration candidates through their expression of interest system. 118 invitations were given to the express entry and labor impact candidates. 9 invitations went to the business impact candidates with at least 60 points in their program. Now, again, with Prince Edward Islands, this is another program which which draws a lot of attention. Now, with Prince Edward Islands, what happens is, if you are in the subcontinent, if you are in India, Pakistan, if you are in Sri Lanka, if you are in the Middle East, invariably, if you will go to these immigration agents or the so-called consultants, because in most cases they're not consultants, they're just posing to be somebody, they will tell you that they will lodge your file. I don't even know why they use the word lodge, but apparently it's a favorite term. They will lodge your profile in these PNP programs. So they will, on your behalf, apply to Ontario, they will apply on your behalf to Alberta, they will apply on your behalf to Prince Edward Islands, and that you have a good chance to get through, because Prince Edward Island only needs 60 points and you probably will have 70, 80 kind of a score. A lot of people fall into this trap. Now, first of all, for Ontario and Alberta, you don't need to apply until you get invited. So mind you, don't fall into that scam or that trap. Nobody's going to do anything specific for you to apply to Alberta or Ontario, because these provinces pick your profiles from the express entry pool. For Prince Edward Islands, you do need to create an expression of interest on their website. However, the favor that Prince Edward Island looks for is for people who are inside their province, people who have a connection to the province. Very rarely have I ever heard of anybody outside Prince Edward Islands who has no connection to Prince Edward Islands receive an invitation to apply. Yes, there is no harm in creating your expression of interest, and you don't need an agent to do it. You can do it yourself. Just go onto their website. It's a very simple, straightforward form, completed, and that would be an expression of interest. It's valid for 6 months, and you can do it yourself. But again, don't pin your hopes on Prince Edward Islands. It's very rare that anybody outside would receive this particular invitation. Okay, so that was Prince Edward Islands. Moving on, we were then looking at Ontario PNP. They have invited 115 candidates from the express entry pool. Now, again, this was for people who are bilingual, who also have French as their second language, or French as their first language and English as their second language. And again, can you see that the score range was extremely high, 461 to 467. 467 being the high point, because that has been linked in tandem with the last all program express entry draw. And only 115 people were invited. I would say, if you have received this invitation, then just grab it and go for it. Don't wait for anything else. Quebec. Now, Quebec, we don't really talk much about it, because already, it's not an easy program to apply through. Now they have made it even more difficult. Quebec Experience Program, knowledge of French for spouses is now required. So your spouse, if you're married, if you're applying with your spouse, then your spouses also need to show that they have knowledge of spoken French, and they will need to take a French exam and show a minimum level of 4 in order for you to be able to successfully submit your application. Well, then there were 2 express entry draws, and keeping in line with what IRCC has been doing over the last 7 months, very frustratingly, they continued with that, and 462 candidates were invited. with the program specific PNP only express entry draw, which happened on the 21st of July. The lowest score was 734 in this particular draw, and the tiebreaker applied for the 11th of April. This basically meant that people who had already received their nomination and they had 600 points that they had received, then they would have been invited in this particular draw. And as again is the norm following from this draw, on this 22nd of July, IRCC conducted another express entry draw where they invited 4,500 candidates from the express entry pool with the lowest score of 357. So the lowest score of 357 was invited, and as I said, they continued with their trend of inviting PNP plus Canadian Experience class at this point of time. In the In Canada programs, we now have parents and grandparents program. This has been launched quite some time back. Last year, they announced this program. People were asked to create their expressions of interest. In order to be eligible, obviously, you had to be a permanent resident or citizen of Canada, and you would have eligible income for at least 3 years in order to be able to apply for this program. And if you are creating an expression of interest, last year 10,000 applications were invited. This year, they are now going to invite 30,000 candidates. And for this, you will not get an opportunity to create your expression of interest because they will be drawing these 30,000 lots from the expressions of interest that were created last year. So it's a bit unfortunate that people will not be given a chance to create new expressions of interest, but it's a good thing for people who did that last year because they will have another shot at it. 30,000 is a big number, and I hope some people will get lucky with this. This draw will take place on the 30th of September, and over the next 2 weeks following that, invitations will be sent out to the people who have been picked out. Well, now let's get to the travel updates. This week was extremely very, very exciting in terms of the border opening updates. Well, the first update was not very exciting at all, and it was contrary to what we were thinking. Even in my last update when we were talking about it, I was quite hopeful that Canada-India direct flight border, or rather direct flight ban would be lifted, but it was not to be so. It has been extended until the 21st of August, and as far as the Canadian health authorities, it is because of the seriousness of the evaluating situation in India with regards to the variants of COVID-19. And they are still concerned with the way the numbers are still on the way up in lots of places in India. And there is an understanding that even if you are vaccinated, that does not mean that you will not transmit the virus. You could still be a carrier of the virus, and therefore they have been very cautious and extended it until the 21st of August. But moving on from there, fully vaccinated American tourists would basically mean people who are citizens of the United States of America or who are green card holders or permanent residents of the United States of America can enter Canada from the 9th of August. And therefore, the purpose of travel will no longer be a criteria whereby non-essential travelers can also come to Canada. The policy for the hotel quarantine will also end on the 9th of August. This is obviously in line with the first one. Because the Americans will now be able to enter, so you don't want to have a hotel quarantine requirement anymore. This is for all travelers. So it does not apply only to the Americans. It does not apply only to the land border. So for everybody, there is going to be no more hotel quarantine effective the 9th of August. If you are fully vaccinated, which basically means 2 doses of valid vaccine, then you obviously don't need hotel quarantine even now, and you don't even need to have 14 days quarantine. But if you come after the 9th of August, regardless of whether you are vaccinated or you are not vaccinated, hotel quarantine requirement will not be applicable anymore. If you are vaccinated, there will be no 14 days quarantine either. If you are not vaccinated, then you will have to comply with the 14-day quarantine requirement at your place of residence. You might also need to do an on-arrival test randomly, which might be applicable to you. And that's basically it. The last one is basically fully vaccinated tourists from all countries can come to Canada from the 7th of September. This is still an ongoing thing. It has not been confirmed, as in it is still something which Canada will look at, obviously based on the vaccination numbers in Canada and the infection situation elsewhere across the world. But the big news is that if you are fully vaccinated, in this case, if you want to come to Canada as a tourist, but you are not vaccinated, then you may not be allowed to come to Canada. You may not be allowed to travel to Canada. This is at this point of time only for fully vaccinated tourists. Fully vaccinated, basically, at this point of time would mean that you have taken 2 doses of any of the 4 approved vaccines. And the 4 approved vaccines is the Pfizer, the Moderna, the Oxford, AstraZeneca or /Covishield, and the 4th one is the Janssen vaccine from Johnson & Johnson. So as long as you have taken 2 mix or 2 same vaccines of any of these 4 that I've just taken the names of, these are considered to be then you will be considered as fully vaccinated. And you should have taken your 2nd dose of the vaccine 14 days before the departure of your flight. This is the requirement for you to be considered as fully vaccinated. So if you have been fully vaccinated, you will be able to come to Canada as a tourist starting from the 7th of September, which is a good news, which shows Canada is sort of progressing towards completely reopening its borders. Well, in other news, what do we have? IELTS in India will now be conducted only by IDP. There was a deal which was struck between British Council and IDP, and 100% of all British Council assets as far as IELTS business is concerned has been sold to IDP. It is understood it was sold to the tune of 130 million pounds or dollars, I'm not sure, but that was the amount for which British Council sold their IELTS business in India. Henceforth, effective 25th of July, which is tomorrow, all IELTS tests in India will be conducted by IDP. I don't know if that's a good news or bad news, but it's news, something that you need to be aware of anyways. Agents, immigration agents, education agents are quite worried in India because they feel IDP is going to take away their business. But I mean, regardless of that, that's the news. You can only now go to IDP. So that debate of whether it should be British Council or IDP, that is no longer that's a moot point now, right? Well, if you are not following us, then you should follow us on our Instagram, Twitter, of course, YouTube. And if you're not part of our Facebook group, then you can also join Facebook group. And this is for our immigration news, updates, and things that keep happening all the time. On the that's just about it as far as the updates were concerned. If you wish to make an appointment with me one-on-one to discuss your application, to discuss your profile, please, that's the link. You're most welcome to check that out. If you are interested in any of our commercial services, that's the link. You can always drop us an email and ask us what services we offer. We'll be very happy to sort of go through with that for you. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel and do follow us on Instagram as well. That is where we usually post out most of the news updates as they happen, when they happen. That's all from me for today. Stay safe, take care, and I'll see you next time.